Returning from studying abroad, I found an unexpected future sister-in-law at home. She proclaimed herself a future mistress of our family, threatening to teach me, her never-before-met sister-in-law, a lesson. But no one told her that my brother was adopted. I am the sole heir to the Sanders family, and even my brother has to watch his step around me. When my brother picked me up from the airport and brought me home, my parents were eagerly waiting for me. Due to the pandemic, I hadn't been home for a long time, and everyone was incredibly excited. As I was catching up with my family and expressing how much I had missed them, my brother pulled over a stranger and introduced her to me. With a hint of shyness, he said, "This is my girlfriend, Chloe, your future sister-in-law." Then, turning to her with a slight nod, he added, "And this is my sister I've often told you about, Molly Sanders. You can call her Molly." "Hello," she greeted me with a polite smile, extending both hands. I was still caught up in the excitement of being home. After exchanging pleasantries with her, I turned back to continue chatting animatedly with my parents. That evening, as I cuddled up with my mom, she filled me in on the details. According to her, this Chloe was an intern my brother had met at the branch company he managed. She seemed pure and gentle, and my brother was head over heels for her. They hadn't been together long before he brought her home, declaring his intention to marry her. I was as excited as if I'd just heard the juiciest gossip. And then, is my brother really going to get married? Your father and I would prefer someone from a similar background, of course. But if he insists, we can't say much. If he truly loves her, we'll let him be, my mom replied, always the open-minded one. I wasn't worried about my brother. But little did I know, when I met Chloe the next day, I realized I had severely underestimated her. Due to jet lag, I woke up in the afternoon. I went downstairs to find something to eat and sat at the dining table for breakfast when I heard a voice from behind. "Sister, you're just waking up. Your brother has already been at the office for half a day. What's wrong with you?" A question mark floated above my head. I turned around to see it was Chloe speaking. "Oh, were you talking to me?" I asked, somewhat incredulously. She rolled her eyes, her pupils nearly disappearing into her skull, and slowly walked down the stairs with her arms crossed. Wow, she already had the air of the mistress of the house. She had seemed normal in front of my parents yesterday, but behind their backs, she couldn't wait to start giving me attitude. Who else would I be talking to? Is there a third person in this room right now? Her tone was filled with undisguised hostility. Clearly I had misunderstood her. After my initial shock, I found it amusing. "I thought you were talking to someone else. After all, we're not that close, so don't call me sister. My family doesn't have any older sisters." I shot back at her and turned back to continue eating. What kind of person is this? My brother must have been blinded by love to fall for her. She continued walking towards me, about to speak with an aggressive attitude when we heard the front door open. Chloe immediately switched to a different persona, her expression turning fragile and her tone a complete reversal from her previous snarky attitude. "Don't be angry. If you don't want me to call you that, I won't in the future." Wow, I can't believe there are still such textbook examples of green tea bitches in the 21st century. Doesn't she find herself the fake? At that moment my mom and brother walked in together. Seeing Chloe's pitiful look, they were confused and quickly came over to ask, "What's wrong? What happened?" With my brother back, Chloe became even more dramatic. She even managed to squeeze out 2 tears that welled up in her eyes, looking truly pitiful. "It's nothing. Molly, she doesn't want me to call her sister. I won't call her that anymore. I thought it would show closeness, but I didn't expect to upset her. I didn't mean to, I just won't call her that anymore." I was stunned by her words. In my 20+ years, I'd never seen such a real drama queen. I guess I've finally seen one. My mom tried to mediate. "Oh, it's just a small thing, no need to get upset." My brother also chimed in, "Molly might just be having some morning grumpiness. She probably hasn't adjusted to the time difference yet. Don't take it to heart." He gave me a look and then comforted the seemingly pitiful Chloe back to their room. I didn't need to continue eating. I was already full from anger. My mom looked at me and asked what happened. I said it was nothing. I want to see what other tricks this person can pull. I hadn't just returned to the country, I was busy meeting up with old friends every day. During this time, I originally didn't have time to bother with Chloe, but unexpectedly, one of my friends brought her up. "How are you getting along with your future sister-in-law? She's quite something, isn't she?" The speaker was my childhood friend, Brian White. His expression and demeanor clearly said, "I know everything, but I'm not telling. I'm waiting for you to ask." This guy has been like this since we were kids. I gave him a sidelong glance. His smile became even more sly. "This little girl was just an intern in your family's company. She hadn't been there long before she had your fool of a brother completely smitten." I scoffed. "Is that all? Who doesn't know that? Tell me something I don't know." Brian wasn't offended and continued, "Well, did you know that this person had only one goal from the moment she entered the company? It was to seduce your brother. Now, she's going around calling herself the Sanders family's daughter-in-law, using this identity to show off everywhere." I finally turned to look at him. Brian proudly took out his phone and showed me several screenshots of conversations between Chloe and her girlfriends. William Sanders is already in my pocket. What kind of rich young master? He's putty in my hands. William took me home to meet his parents. The Sanders house is so big, and they even have a housekeeper. I must hold on to this tightly. William's sister is coming home soon. In families like this, the sister-in-law is always a potential threat. When she gets home, I need to give her a good lesson to put her in her place. How foolish to dare to boast about such things. She really can't keep her mouth shut. I inwardly criticized, then turned back to Brian. "And what's your relationship with the person in these screenshots?" Brian grinned, and I looked at him with disdain. He was quite frank about it. "What's the big deal? It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. Who's like your brother?" However, I couldn't help but keep an eye on Chloe. From my observations, this person's ambition was not small. On the surface, she appeared gentle, kind, and innocent, not fighting or grabbing for anything, seemingly not after anything. But in reality, she didn't deprive herself of anything. She had my brother convert her to a full-time employee, promote her, and give her a cushy position in the department. She went from occasionally staying over to practically moving into our house. She was good at playing the victim and knew how to make people like her. In this house, except for me and the housekeeper, she greeted everyone with a smile. Pleasing my parents was to win over her future in-laws, and coddling my brother was to get married quickly and become the real Mrs. Sanders. Only towards me, her sister-in-law, she didn't even bother to pretend. When she saw Mrs. Wilson bringing me a late-night snack, she made a fuss about wanting some too. But it was already very late, and the soup had been simmering for hours. It was too late to make it now, and Mrs. Wilson was about to go to bed. When she heard Mrs. Wilson was unwilling, she put her hands on her hips and put on her young mistress airs again. "Want to have some soup and you can't make it for me? Are you the Sanders family's housekeeper or some pampered lady? Can't I even give you an order now?" Mrs. Wilson had no choice but to go make it for her. She was so domineering, yet in front of my parents, she always yielded to me. I couldn't be bothered to play such a correct with her, never giving her a good face. This contrast made me look like the unreasonable one. I once tentatively asked my brother if he really wanted to marry Chloe. Did he really know this person? My brother just treated it as me throwing a childish tantrum, saying he would marry her in the future and hoped I would get along well with her. My parents were also becoming increasingly fond of Chloe. Chloe would accompany my mom shopping, buying bags. No matter what my mom liked, she would praise my mom's taste, flattering her to no end. Of course, she would often receive gifts from her future mother-in-law. Exchanging emotional value for material value, both of them were very satisfied. My brother was naturally happy to see their good relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I was the only one in this family who didn't like her. This contrast became increasingly obvious, and I started to look like the real villain. Because of this, Chloe became more confident in facing me, treating me even more excessively in places where my parents couldn't see. "Sister's room is really big. When I marry your brother, can we move to this room? After all, you'll be married off by then. I think the lighting and space here are the best. It would be a shame if it were left vacant." It sounded like she was asking, but her tone was more like she was informing me. So she had her eye on my room from the beginning. I glanced at my brother standing nearby, and he didn't say a word. I laughed in anger. "Is that so? You might not even marry into this family, and you're already thinking about taking my room, and since you hooked my brother, isn't he going to buy you your own marital home? Why do you have to stay in my family's house?" "Molly, don't talk nonsense." My mom had heard what I said and came over. "Chloe, don't take her seriously." My mom even turned to comfort Chloe, then said to me, "Is that how you should talk? Quickly apologize to your brother and Chloe." I wouldn't. Although I realized I shouldn't have said that, I refused to apologize in front of Chloe. Seeing my mom also taking her side, Chloe slipped towards me and became even more arrogant. "It's okay, Auntie. Molly is just throwing a tantrum. We won't move out. William and I want to stay with you. I want to take care of you in your old age." After challenging me with her eyes, she easily spouted flattering words to my mom. My brother also played the peacemaker. "Don't blame Molly. It was Chloe joking about switching rooms with her." Chloe took it seriously. He turned to me as if coaxing a child who doesn't understand. "Your sister-in-law was just teasing you. Don't be angry, okay?" My mom also repeatedly praised her for being understanding and scolded me for being petty, saying it was just a joke and reprimanded me for being intolerant. Seeing that they were really starting to prepare for the wedding, I began to panic. I couldn't let her really marry into my family. We couldn't possibly live with this drama queen, could we? Taking advantage of the day when Chloe wasn't at our house, I called a family meeting with my parents and brother. "I don't agree with Chloe marrying into our family." As soon as I said this, my parents and brother looked at me. My mom said, "Molly, don't make trouble." My brother seemed unsurprised. "As your sister-in-law predicted, you really don't agree." "Well done, she even predicted this." My brother seemed somewhat exasperated. "Why are you so dissatisfied with Chloe? You seem to dislike her in every way." When she told me, I didn't believe it. "I didn't expect you to still try to make things difficult for her at this time." As he spoke, my brother had a look of feeling wronged on her behalf. "Molly, can't you just give her a chance for my sake? If you really don't like her, after we get married, I'll move out. Is that okay? We won't live together." It seems Chloe had already given my brother a preemptive warning. I knew that whatever I said next, he would think it was just an excuse because I didn't like Chloe. She really was deeply scheming. I knew it was useless to say anything more, so I directly took out those chat records between Chloe and her girlfriends.